Hey guys, it's the Comics Kid 2099, and today, March 27th, I just saw the trailer for the Wolverine. Actually, I saw it a couple hours ago. But by the time this video will go up, the trailer will have been out for almost a day. And I just wanted to put out a little video basically covering my thoughts on this trailer. For a while now, I have been saying that the Wolverine looks like it's going to be a better film than X-Men Days of Future Past. Long story short, I'm not too terribly thrilled with anything I've heard from Days of Future Past. I know last fall I made a video kind of detailing my predictions on Days of Future Past, and long story short, a lot of the things that I said I would hope would be in the movie, turns out they're probably not going to be in the movie. I may cover what I think of Days of Future Past in a little while, in a week or two, maybe once we know a little bit more. I know we know quite a bit more about it, and comparing Days of Future Past to the Wolverine, we know almost nothing about the Wolverine. I mean, with Days of Future Past, we know what storyline it's going to be based on, and we know that there's about 15 people who have been cast in the movie. But with the Wolverine, we also know what storyline it's going to be based on. Allegedly, it's going to be based on the Frank Miller, Chris Claremont miniseries from the 1980s, Wolverine's first solo story. And actually, I know everyone else in the universe really loves that story, but I am not a huge fan of it. So, as soon as I heard that this movie was going to be based on that story, I was hoping that they would take the general vague outline of that story and then change the things I didn't like and maybe add some new things. Because while that story was about 4 issues long, I'm not entirely sure if it would be able to fit in an entire movie. I think they would have to add quite a bit to make it an hour and a half, 2 hours long. So anyway, what do I think of the trailer? Well, now that I've seen it, I still think, as far as plot is concerned, this movie is probably going to have fewer problems than the Days of Future Past movie. I still am not very excited about Days of Future Past. I just have this gut feeling that there's going to be a lot of issues that I'll have with it. And if you're just being objective, looking at the plot of the Wolverine and the plot of Days of Future Past, once we're able to look at both of those, I have a feeling that the Wolverine will be a more consistent movie than Days of Future Past. However, I'm not entirely sure if the Wolverine is going to be a good film. I just kind of have this idea that it's going to be basically a cheesy action film with, you know, a little bit of science fiction in there. And that's okay. Sometimes people like those kinds of movies. Those kinds of movies aren't necessarily for me, but, you know, maybe this will be a fun movie. I should also point out that I don't read a whole lot of solo Wolverine. I have a few Wolverine stories on my shelf, but for the most part, when I like Wolverine, he's with the rest of the X-Men, and that's when I find him to be the most interesting. I do, however, think that this film is going to be far, far superior to X-Men Origins Wolverine. Although, when you look at the trailer for that film, it was, you know, a decent trailer. And then it ended up being one of the worst movies that I've ever seen in my life. Hopefully, the Wolverine is not going to be the same experience. I do have some minor gripes about what I've seen in this trailer, and this is maybe going to sound like fanboy nitpicking, but, you know, oh well, it is what it is. Number 1. Apparently, it's been roughly 1 year since the events of X-Men 3: The Last Stand, and Wolverine is whining and crying because Jean Grey is dead. He's like in a bar, he's got the beard of sorrows and really long hair, and then somebody is trying to kill him or something. And I don't really like this idea that he feels like his life is just ruined because Jean Grey is dead. If you watch all 3 of those X-Men movies, you realize that Wolverine didn't really spend that much time with Jean Grey. He first met her in the first X-Men film, and that took place over the span of maybe a day. And then in between X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, Wolverine wasn't with the X-Men at all. He was going off trying to find himself at Alkali Lake. And then he comes back in X-Men 2, and he meets Jean again. And then she dies. And so in between 2 and 3, she's not at the mansion at all. And then in 3, she's not even herself at all. So really, how much time did Wolverine spend with Jean Grey? as I'm trying to calculate it, I'm thinking he spent maybe 2 days with her, tops. And yet, we're supposed to buy that a year later, he's like wishing he was dead because she's dead? Come on, Wolverine, you barely knew the girl. The whole Wolverine-Jean Grey romance thing was something I really didn't like in the movies anyway. I'm not entirely against the characters being together in the comics, but in the movies it just wasn't handled very well. And in this movie it doesn't look like it's being handled very well either. And then you've got this guy who Wolverine apparently saved him during World War II. It looks like Wolverine was in Hiroshima or Nagasaki during the events of World War II. We're not sure which one, but we see that he is saving somebody who is Japanese, and we're seeing an atomic bomb go off. Wolverine, like, throws this person into a bomb shelter. I'm not really sure if Wolverine himself was outside of the bomb shelter or if he was inside. It's kind of hard to tell. And then apparently this guy, he's now, like, positively ancient, and he's wanting to repay Wolverine for saving his life. And he wants to do this by taking Wolverine's life. Wolverine apparently thinks that life is no longer worth living, and so this guy's like, hey, I can help you with that. I can make you mortal. And then the next thing we see, some guy shoots Wolverine, and suddenly he's got his claws out and he's trying to kill people. Now, I'm sure there's some component in the movie that was not visible in the trailer, but it seems to me that if Wolverine wishes he was dead, and then somebody shoots him, and then he attacks them, maybe there's something I'm missing here. I thought he wanted to be dead. If somebody shoots him, why is he attacking them? And then why is he, doing the things that Wolverine does, claws out, attacking everybody? Why is he doing all this if he wishes he was dead? Now, first of all, I don't necessarily like the idea that Wolverine knows about things that he did prior to the Weapon X experiment. The stuff that Wolverine did in the 1940s, he shouldn't know about that. His memories were all wiped of everything prior to the Weapon X experiment when he had the adamantium on his claws. And that itself was supposed to be about 15 years before the events of X-Men. So no matter where you slice the cake, World War II was definitely way before he got the adamantium on his claws. And furthermore, it kind of looks like he has the adamantium on his claws in World War II. Maybe I'll have to rewatch that trailer to see if that's what's going on there, but that was a little strange to me. He definitely shouldn't have his adamantium back that far. I do like some of the stuff that we see in this trailer. We see what looks like a very awesome looking fight that's going to be happening on a moving train, and we see some technology like machinery that looks like Jack Kirby drew it, very Kirby-esque. And I know Jack Kirby didn't have anything to do with the creation of Wolverine, but if you have a comic book movie, throwing in some stuff that looks Kirby-ish, that's never a bad thing in my opinion. Overall, I think this movie is going to be very fun. I think it's going to be far better than Wolverine Origins, but I'm still not quite sold on this being the X-Men movie that I'm looking forward to. Maybe it'll be fun. Maybe it's just for people who are more fans of solo Wolverine than I am. I guess we'll see. I'm curious to know what you guys thought of the trailer. Let me know in the comments below or make video responses. And until then, I will see you guys next time.